to meeting Riven, he's talking all of his nonsense, and then Sky and Brandon are like, "You're a cunt!" You know why we don't find out what it is that they were using the specialist's troll for? It's because they mark him right after they find him. What's up? I'm Kate, and I have never watched Winx Club ever, and that kind of confuses people when they're like, "But you were a 2000s kid. What do you mean you didn't watch Winx Club?" So I'm here to right my wrongs and watch all of Winx Club, all 6 seasons, I think. I did watch episode 1 and 2 last year, and I promise I will be pushing out these videos more often now that I've like learned how to navigate copyright and whatever. So on to episodes 3 and 4. Okay, so I have my notes and I wrote down all of my thoughts and the summaries for episode 3 and 4. I'm very organized. I'm very organized for this recap, so let's get into it. Episode 3. So the School of Fairies is throwing a party and they're inviting the specialists. And the specialists are basically just the boys at the magic school. I think there might be boys in the fairy school or in the witches school, but I don't think I saw any. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. But the fairies are inviting the specialists to their beginning of the year party. And surprise, surprise, the witches were not invited. So the headmaster for the witches school gives out an assignment to all the witches. And she's like, you guys are going to come up with an evil plan to ruin the fairies' party. The fairies that are picked are the Tricks, and we have seen the Tricks in the last 2 episodes. They're honestly like, we'll get into that later. But they get picked to carry out their plan. And while they're formulating their plan, Bloom is struggling to find a dress for the party. And her friends, I'm gonna learn their names at some point, but Bloom and the Winx decide that they're going to go on a really cool fashion montage to help Bloom find a dress. Something else to keep in the back of your mind is that Bloom is really struggling to use her powers. She just got to the magic school and she doesn't really know what she's doing at all. So they're trying to help her out. She's trying to find a dress. The dresses in the school or the fairy world are just really expensive. They're like way out of Bloom's budget. So the specialists are planning to give these eggs as gifts to the fairies during the party, and the witches decide that they're going to curse the eggs from the specialists. Bloom finds out about this, and she goes to warn her friends. They successfully fix the problem, and no one notices, but then we find out that there was a second half to the witches' plan, which was that they were going to use the cursed eggs as a diversion to do their real evil plan, which was to steal Stella's ring. So now Bloom has to confront them alone because all of the rest of the Winx Club are stuck in the party. So she goes to confront them and she finally transforms our girl. She learns how to use her magic and she successfully defeats the Tricks. And that's how the episode ends. Okay, so the next part of this recap review is that I'm going to give you some lore that I picked up on during the episode, some comments that I have, questions, and my theories. So let's start with the lore drop. It's pretty short. Stella's parents are divorced. I don't know if that's gonna come up again at some point, but I did like catch it in the first few minutes of the episode and I was like, oh, interesting, Stella's parents are divorced. And that really is all the lore that I have right now. For the comments, I wrote that I really like Winx or the Winx Club as a friend group. I would have been so excited for college if I grew up watching the Winx Club, and now that I am like about to go off to college, I'm still getting like really excited just based off of watching this show. What am I yapping about? What am I yapping about? Like Bloom and her friends are peak female friendship. I hope to one day have a friend group like the Winx. And if you want to talk about another girl group in the show that I really like the Tricks. I really like their designs. I like their their outfits when they're not fighting the Winx, like their casual outfits, I think are really cool. Like they just really give off the early 2000s vibe. I love how I'm talking about the early 2000s like I was there. I was not. I was not there. But I can imagine, in the way that I imagine the early 2000s to be is exactly how I see the Trix's outfits. I just really like their dynamic. They got like this really cute duck at the end of that episode that I didn't mention. Ugh, I need to learn their names. I think it's Flora. She did a switcheroo with Stella's ring because the Trix did eventually get their hands on it, but Flora did a magic trick, and instead of the ring, there was this cute little purple duck that was given to the Trix. I think it was given to Icy, and it goes, "Mommy, mommy, mommy!" And I love that duck so much. I hope that they keep it. I know that I know that it's in the next episode, so I'm really happy about that, but I want that duck to be a recurring character, and I want it to like start Icy's redemption arc. Because I personally love when villains are like really mean, but then they have a soft spot for like their pet. That it's the cutest thing to me. Okay, questions. I want to know if Bloom was adopted because neither of her parents know about the magic school. They don't have any magic themselves. She just has magic, and I haven't watched the first 2 episodes in, like I said, a year. So I don't remember exactly what her parents looked like, but I don't think that either of them really looked like her. So this is like question/theory. I personally think that Bloom was adopted. That's my headcanon. And we'll figure out if I'm right in the later episodes. Do not spoil me. Do not tell me whether or not she is adopted. I want to figure that out on my own. What is the currency in Althea? Like the fairy world? Because Bloom talks about how everything there is really expensive and that it would cost about like her entire allowance for a year. And I guess what threw me for a loop when she started talking about how expensive the clothing was is that she doesn't even have Althea money anyways. That would be my first concern, because if I go to a different place and I don't even have the currency, it doesn't matter how much money I have if I can't use it. So what I want to know is, do they accept Earth money? Are all of the fairies connected? Are there more fairies on Earth that come to Althea and use the currency? I don't know. I think that's really weird. What's the world building? What's the world building on that? So we know that all of the schools were connected at some point. That was part of the lore that I understand from this episode. So I want to know what made them split up, what happened. And you can just run right into my theories from that question there. I personally think that all of the headmasters had beef at some point and they decided to split the 2 schools. I actually think that it wasn't the witches that caused them to split up. I think that it was the fairies. That's my headcanon. I've said that twice. Maybe I should like put that on a t-shirt. Would you guys buy my merch if I put that on a t-shirt? That's my headcanon. No? Okay. Miss Griselda is an op. I just don't like her vibe. I think that she's actually an undercover witch, and she's just, I get that there's the nice teacher, I forget her name, but she has like the purple hair and she wears purple, and there's the nice teacher, and then there's Miss Griselda, but Miss Griselda is strict in a way that just feels kind of off. I feel like we're gonna see more of her in the show, and we're gonna find out that she actually is not a good guy at all. I think she's a witch. I think she's a witch. And now for my favorite theory. I don't even think it's a theory at this point. I think it's canon. Bloom and Brandon? Is that a ship? That is probably where I end for episode 3. Those were all of my takes on episode 3. And yeah, okay. Episode 4. So the Winx Club and the rest of their class are taken on a trip to a swamp. And the point of their trip is to learn how to listen to nature. While they're doing this, we find out that the Tricks have a troll. Sorry, I laughed too hard. We learn that the Tricks have a troll that they want to get rid of. So they're also headed to the forest. And the Specialists, remember them, they are also headed to the swamp to, well, I don't think that they were headed to the swamp. I think they were just flying over the swamp, and they were trying to take a bad troll to prison. We're gonna go with that. While they're flying their ship, they crash into the swamp. They run into the Winx, and the Winx decide that they're gonna help them. In all this commotion, the troll that the Specialists had gets away. And now the Winx have to try and help the Specialists find the troll. We then find out that the Tricks were the ones that helped the Specialists troll escape. This is where I kind of get confused, because the Tricks had their own troll at the beginning, and they said, we're gonna get rid of him by doing X, Y, and Z, and then we just never see that troll again. So I guess they got rid of him off screen and he had nothing to do with the rest of the plot. But the Tricks were using the Specialists troll to do something. We don't find out what it is, and you know why we don't find out what it is that they were using the Specialists troll for? It's because they mark him right after they find him. Like, I don't even know if we saw that troll in previous episodes, but I felt so bad for him. They lead him into the forest, and he finally gets to them, and they're like, now that you've done what we told you to do, it's time for us to get rid of you. And they snap their fingers, and he's like, huh? Maybe he deserved it. I don't know, but that was cold. That was cold. Anyway, nothing really gets resolved in this episode, at least when it comes to the troll. The Specialists don't find the troll because the Tricks, just offed him or something. I don't know what happened to the troll, but the Tricks got rid of him. And so the Specialists never find the troll. They don't find out that it was the Tricks that did anything, and everyone just goes home. But, as far as the side plots go, the girls, they pass their assignment by learning how to be better at nature thanks to their helping the Specialists, and the Specialists become a better team because they were not working together in the beginning. Okay, no lore job here, just a lot of comments. The Bloom and Brandon ship was confirmed, and so I'm really excited. Guys, one thing that you should know about me is I am a lover girl, I am a hopeless romantic, and I love whenever there's a ship in a show. And what I actually really liked about Bloom and Brandon is that Brandon isn't really like the main guy in the team of the Specialists. I don't remember the guy with the glasses. I don't remember his name, so someone comment his name at some point. But the team of Specialists is Riven. We're gonna get to him in a second. But we have Riven, we have Sky, Brandon, and Glasses Dude. Glasses Dude, that's what we're gonna call him until I remember his name. But they were not subtle with the ship at all. If you've seen the show, you know that at the beginning of every episode, they do a recap of the previous episode, and the narrator is like, Bloom and Brandon seem to be creating a very special friendship. And I was like, oh, okay, so you're telling me that that is a confirmed ship. I should look forward to that in the future. And the next episode is called Date of Disaster or something like that, so I'm excited. I'm excited for that episode. I can't stand Riven. I hate Riven. Like I said, I'm still learning the names of the Winx girls because they've really said the names in the past 2 episodes. But the blue-haired girl, when I say that this show is not subtle when they want to point out like a romantic attraction between 2 characters, and I mean that makes sense because it is a kids show. It's for like, I want to say preteens. Preteens is like the main demographic for the show. Don't look at me. So I get that they have to be really on the nose with it, but I don't see what the blue-haired girl sees in Riven at all. I will learn her name. I will put it somewhere in this episode, I promise. But all of a sudden we find out, oh, she has a crush on Riven. And I'm like, girl, you know what? It's a canon event. We have to let it happen. We can't intervene. I'm interested to see what's gonna happen there. Maybe there'll be a redemption arc for Riven. The whole point of the Winx Club being in the swamp in the first place was for them to connect to nature, and I thought it was really fitting that Techno was having the most trouble. Hey, look at that. I remembered one person's name, but I only remember her name because her costume was just so different from the rest of the girls. And also, you know, Techna, she's good at tech. So it made sense, okay? Don't come for me. I promise I'm gonna learn all of their names. Let's see. Let me try and say all of the names that I know so far. There's Bloom, there's Stella, there's Techna. I'm not sure about the fourth girl's name. I think her name is Flora. And there's two more. You know what? We're gonna Google it right now. These are not the characters that I was watching. I don't know if this is like the OG or what. I don't know what reboot of the show is, but I'm watching. I can't even tell you which reboot I'm watching. I'm watching the one that most of you guys are probably familiar with. Okay, so I had everyone's name except for Musa, so I'm not that bad. And I knew. Okay, Musa. I think her power has something to do with music. She's the blue-haired girl, so we know her name now. Musa. I don't know what Musa sees in Riven, but that's besides the point. What was I talking about? Yeah, Techna having trouble connecting to nature, given the fact that her whole deal is technology, is very fitting, so I thought that was pretty good writing. I love that the specialists take no crap from Riven. From the moment he started talking, I was like, yeah, this guy's gonna be a pain in the butt. And usually in most shows, whenever they have that one annoying character, everyone's kind of just really nice and kind of just ignores them. But 5 minutes into meeting Riven, he's talking all of his nonsense, and then Sky and Brandon are like, you're cut! You're cut! And Riven shuts up. He's like, all right, geez. I was right. Well, I don't know if it's, yeah, I was right. The duck came back, and that was probably the highlight of the episode for me. I want Icy to keep that duck. I hope that duck is part of her rebranding, part of her redemption arc. And yeah. I don't have any questions this episode, but I do have a theory. Whoa. I just realized that I've been recording for like 35 minutes. But I have a theory. But like I said, it's not even a theory when it comes to this show because they're so on the nose. But Sky and Stella, I'm loving the alliteration with these ships. We have Sky and Stella, Bloom and Brandon. That's how we know that Muse and Riven is not going to happen because there's no alliteration. They don't have the same first letter of their name. So that's my theory. Oh, look at that. I do have an actual theory. My theory is that the ships only happen if the two characters have the same first letter of their first name. But Sky and Stella as a ship? I like that. I like that for them because she's, if I remember correctly, Stella is a princess, right? I think Stella's a princess. And Sky's a prince, and so the prince and the princess are gonna fall in love, and it's gonna be great. But yeah, like back to that point that I was making earlier, I really like that just because Bloom is the main girl in the Winx Club, she doesn't end up with the main guy in the specialists. I like that she ends up with the second in command. I think that's cool. I think it's a lot better than what shows usually do. Look at Winx Club. It's so subversive, such a masterpiece. Just so ahead of its time. What am I yapping about? And that's all of my comments and review of the Winx Club episodes 3 and 4. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. That way you can see what I'd say for episode 5 and 6. I'm really excited for episode 5. It was called Date of Disaster, like something disaster, something with date. So you know that there's gonna be some sort of relationship stuff going on in episode 5, and I'm excited for that. My favorite ship so far is probably Stella and Sky. I like Bloom and Brandon, but I feel like Stella and Sky is going to be a lot more fun to watch. And yeah, okay, I love you. Bye!